Oh, what is going on, YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just the SN podcast, and today we have episode 64. And with me, as always, I have my boy Andrew, and we got some things to talk about and some different things to talk about. We've been obviously all about the Browns, unfortunately. We don't have any Ohio State news besides the fact that they get to play Tennessee
Yep.
on the 20th. I believe it's either 20th or the 21st, but I know it's a Saturday and it is in Buckeye Stadium, so that'll be lit. And Cavs are off for the next few days. They don't play till Friday. They're still kind of rolling. They just lost to the Heat, but that's only their fourth loss, so up to speed on that. But we got some guards news to talk about, my friend. So
Yeah.
before I get into that, how are we doing this week? How are we feeling after another Browns loss? I mean, we both kind of saw that coming. So, it probably didn't really like damper the mood. It just kind of sucks,
Yeah, I mean it sucks, but you know what? It was one that again you could see coming and didn't really make much of a difference, to be honest. We I think we could all tell each other what was gonna happen, and there was chances for us that we blew it. So and it's typical Browns football. Obviously, and I'll let you probably talk about this too. The owner had something to say about what was it, 15 minutes ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
had quite a
Well,
bit to say.
yeah, we will discuss that in a little bit. But yeah, some fun news from Browns under Jimmy Haslam that we'll get into here in a bit. But I do want to start off with some interesting and cool news again with the guards. Um, Big trade popped off randomly last night at probably, what do you want to say, like 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
This trade pops off, and we're like, what the fuck's going on? Andreas Gimenez has been traded to the Blue Jays. The guards got Horwitz, and it was another infield prospect, or no, outfield prospect. I
Yep.
forget the kid's name, but they got him from the Blue Jays, so no more Andreas Gimenez. Obviously, he was like a 3 or 4 time Gold Glove winner for us. Did not hit the ball as well this past year as he has in previous years, which was a little bit concerning. And I think for the both of us, we saw with the amount of money he was owed, it kind of made sense. But that was not the only thing that happened, because hours later, I think this happened around like 1 a.m. The Guardians then traded Horwitz from the Blue Jays, traded him to Pittsburgh, and received 3 prospects, which was Lewis, Ortiz, Michael Kennedy, and I forget the first guy's name, but Hartle, who are all younger prospects. Lewis or Ortiz did start quite a few games for the Pirates last year, and actually did pretty freaking well. I mean, I know he pitched well against us. He was
Yep.
sort of a bullpen guy at first, and he started to start a little more. And I think he went 7-6. He had like a 3.5 or 6 ERA, not too shabby. And again, he's 25. And now you sort of bring in young talent in this already amazing pitching farm that we have. Arguably, I would say one of the best, if not the best, in Major League Baseball, which is exactly what we needed. I thought that was what was going to happen when we traded for Horwitz, because there was news of, oh, he's not the only guy involved in this trade, and it ended up being Sandlin also went to the Blue Jays, which was a bullpen guy for us. Started off really well last year, got hurt, and then was just not the same. And he's also in his arbitration year, I believe, next year. So
Yep.
it honestly made sense for them to move on from him as well. But and we'll talk about this here in a minute. But again, I know this was a fan favorite, but this move makes so much sense when you look at it from a strictly baseball perspective, from in everything perspective, your perspective with this team. I know this news comes just a little bit after the whole Guards Fest announcement thing happens, and everybody's saying, the Dolphins are cheap, which they are. I am not disagreeing there, but we did save $90 million in doing this deal to trade Gimenez away. But again, this trade makes a lot of sense, Andrew. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, you traded away Gimenez for 3 guys that you can control for the next few years. And I think that's the one thing the Guardians like is that you have full control over these guys. Are cheap. Like you said,
young.
And they're young. I mean, like you said, we got Luis Ortiz who just turned 25. Posted a 7.6 record with a 3.32 ERA, 107.
That was close.
Yeah, 107 strikeouts on the year and a 111 WHIP. So pretty solid for the young man who just became a starter and came out of the bullpen. And a lot of people thought he was actually going to be a bullpen piece. So I got to stick in the bullpen to make the bullpen even just more elite than it already is, which I would have been completely fine with that too. Yeah. But I think this gives you a 5th quality starter or a 4th quality starter because obviously we're not going to have Bieber to start the year. Bieber is going to come in more towards like the summertime.
Yeah.
So your starting 5 is going to be Bibee, Gavin, Ben Lively, Joey Cantillo to start because Cantillo is probably going to stay up here to start. And then you got Ortiz.
And plus you still have Tristan McKenzie to see what he's got again.
Yeah. And Logan Allen too.
Yeah.
You got those guys in AAA. If either one of them post good numbers, they're going to come up for a little bit and, hang around. So you still got people in the minor leagues who can easily come up and make a big difference on the mound. So I think this makes a lot of sense. I get it. We lose a fan favorite and a 3-time Gold Glover and a 1-time Platinum Glove winner.
Yeah.
But again, you start to get to the nitty gritty of this is the last year of his cheap contract. And then he's owed almost $95 million for the next 3 years, or until like 2032 or something. So I didn't think the Guardians wanted to pay that because after next year you're starting to pay like close to $25 million a year for him, and you're gonna want to extend guys like Stephen Kwan, Tanner Bybee, who are gonna want contract extensions here and probably before the season starts, and. Now you're looking at potentially moving Josh Naylor to see if you can free up some more money because I know he's in his at the end of his contract and he's going to command more money. So you might get rid of him. But for the young guys that you got, like you said, you got Ortiz and the young pitchers. You got, I forget the outfielder's name for some reason. I can't. I have it right here actually. You get Nick Mitchell.
Nick Mitchell. I knew his first name was Nick. I could not think of the last name.
Yeah, Nick. So you get Nick Mitchell, and then you get Ortiz, Josh Hartle, and Michael Kennedy.
Yeah, Josh Hartle.
And again, Nick Mitchell had really, really good numbers in the minor leagues. I can pull him up here, but I want to say he started in the minor leagues. Well, he obviously started in the minor leagues. I want to say he started in single A or double A. He started in Dunedin, but this year he posted 90 at bats, 26 hits, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, a 289 batting average, 350 on base percentage, and an 817 OPS. So really solid. And he was at a single A level. So for single A level, batting around 290 to 300, that's pretty freaking good. So he's definitely a guy who's going to start somewhere like a trying to think of the team up in Cleveland, the Lake County Captains.
Yeah,
he's going to start in single A with Lake County most likely. Then he's going to work his way up through the system. But again, a solid young outfielder, and then you get the 3 young pitchers too. Josh Hartle as a solid pitcher. Taking a look at his stats.
And I'm pretty sure Michael Kennedy is pretty solid as well.
Yeah.
He's only a 20-year-old, but I know it in his last start alone, he had 10 Ks in like 5 2/3 innings. Like the kid, I think it was on like 75 pitches as well. Like he's gonna be solid again. He's only 20. So these guys are all young. It makes so much sense, but it also makes sense not only from pitching, but also from the infield perspective. You obviously brought in Rocchio last year to be your shortstop.
Yeah.
And now you have a ton, a ton of infield prospects that can move anywhere in the infield. And one of the ones that is going to be the biggest factor, I don't know why I'm jipping on his name, Juan Brito. Everybody is saying he's ready. I heard, I believe it was Andre Knott, who is usually the sideline guy for the guards throughout the season. He was on ESPN Cleveland today, I believe, and he was saying Juan Brito is up next. Like, he's going to be a stud. He was great, in AAA last year. He's ready to take that leap. 23-year-old. And you still have guys like Schneemann to put in there as well, which I really liked him last year, and I want to continue to see what he's got. But you also have the first overall pick in Travis Bazzana, who at some point is going to be the guy. Don't think it's going to be now. I don't, like we said before the podcast, I believe he could get some time up here in like September, just later on in the year, to where you may need to rest some guys. You may have, a guy that needs to put on a 10 to 12 day IL stint or whatever, being able to just see what he's got and then put it back down. But he's going to start probably in Akron, work his way up to Columbus, and really just hammer it out there. But if he ends up doing well, he's going to at least be here by 2026. And I think that's the goal. And then that sort of gives you a chance to say, okay, does Ramirez need to be full-time DH and then move everywhere else all around the infield? And then you still have guys, obviously, like Manzardo and Noel, who are both first basemen. So I honestly expect Naylor to be next. I know he is a name that has been talked about a little bit. So we'll see ultimately what happens there. But there's so much talent brewing in our farm, once again, that I'm not concerned. Even though it sucks getting rid of Gimenez, I'm not concerned at all with the level of talent that we could bring up. And not every guy is going to hit. I know that for a fact, because it's just how baseball works. Some guys are just meant to be in AAA or meant to be in AA. But you have guys like Chase DeLautner that still have not even touched the major leagues yet.
Yeah.
You have Manzardo, who was a great DH for us last year, especially in the playoffs. Noel had his running moments as well. David Fry can play anywhere as well. You just have a lot of Swiss Army knife guys. And I think the Guardians just like to keep this team youthful. They like to keep this team young. I know Gimenez, I think he was around like 28 or 29. He wasn't too old, but he's not going to get any younger. And it just makes sense. They got his value, and I think what they got in return is going to be much more beneficial moving forward. So I see this as a W, a sad W, because again, you're going to lose out on a guy like Gimenez, who was liked by a lot of us, but it just makes sense. And again, you save so much money. You save over $90 million in cap, not in cap, but just 90 mil. It's so much. And you can give that to a guy like Steven Kwan, Tanner Bybee, or you can load up for a bigger bat if you really choose to do that.
Or another big-time pitcher.
Yeah, like there are options. And I think the guards understand that they have to strike now while the iron is hot. And unfortunately, you have to give and take. And this is one of the things where you got to give a little to take more.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen here. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see the prospects that start to brew as we get to spring training, really see who they decide to bring up and who they decide to keep down for now. But it's going to be fun. And you're going to see guys like Travis Bazzana at least in spring training as well, just to see what they got. But you're going to see DeLautner, you're going to see more Manzardo, you're going to see all those guys, and it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be fun. This is what this team needed. And I'm ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, this team is loading up. Yeah, it sucks that we're losing Andres Gimenez, but sometimes you have to take those chances. You have to take those gambles.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, to say this, you gave up one of the weaker bats in the lineup, because when it did become Andres Gimenez, sure, in a couple of games this season he came up clutch, but when I was attending those games, man, when Andres Gimenez's name came up in those situations where it's like, all right, we need a base hit from him, whatnot. He would strike out. He would ground out. And he was one of the guys who, again, we talked about during the season where he's one of those guys that swung and missed at the ball that was like on his toes.
Yeah.
And those were the pitches he always swung at. He would swing at the ball right when it was at his feet because pitchers saw the tapes and they said, all right, on strike 2, if you throw a slider or curveball right on his feet, he's going to swing every time.
Right.
And he does. And that was his downfall. And, when there's a situation where you can get an RBI and get a run scored, he swung at every pitch. He was too aggressive. And then when he had nobody on base, he was non-aggressive and struck out looking or would hit a ground out or flat. So the weakness was his batting for sure, but you miss him defensively.
Yeah.
And going back to the two young pitchers, Hartle was at Wake Forest. He just finished college. Unfortunately, in 2023, he was 11-2 with a 2.81 ERA. So he was a stud and a projected first round pick. But this past season at Wake Forest, he went 6-3 with a 5.70 ERA. But I think something happened to where that kind of like hurt him a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So he went from the first round to the fourth round. But again, you bring him into a system that's really good at developing pitchers, and he can get back to that 281, 11-4 record. And according to the minor league website, he's going to start out in Lake County. And Michael Kennedy, again, he's also going to start on Lake County, according to the MILB website. He was assigned to Lake County.
Yep.
And the minors in 2 years. His first year, he went 2-1 with a 2.12 ERA and 63 strikeouts. In the next season, 95 strikeouts, a 3.50 ERA. Yeah, he went 2-5, but that 3.50 ERA is not bad, and 90 plus strikeouts.
Yeah,
pretty solid. So again, Kennedy and Hartle are going to be two solid pitchers that can work through the rankings of the minor leagues and get up to Cleveland or, be valuable trade options maybe soon too.
Oh, yeah.
But at this point in time, getting rid of Gimenez, you could re-sign Bybee longer, Steven Kwan a little bit longer, or like you said, another bat or another solid starter. So maybe you could start Cantillo down at AAA or put Cantillo back into the bullpen and have good 5 quality starters until Bieber gets back and you do what you will. So there's so many options for this team, and I'm in agreement with Andre. I think Juan Brito is ready. Finished with 40 doubles and 21 home runs last season, batting near 300 or batting like 280s, high 280s. He looks ready to go. And like you said, if he's not, there's guys behind him like Schneemann or Angel Martinez who can come right in for him when needed.
Yeah.
So there's definitely options. And I think all 3 of those guys are better hitters than Andres Gimenez.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%.
Because
I think
when we brought
upside.
Well, that's the thing. I think when we brought up Schneemann, he was like a 290, 280 hitter.
Yeah.
And because we talked a lot about him in AAA, wanting him to come up for a while, and then he finally came up, and he was batting almost 300 at AAA. And Angel Martinez, who spent half the year in AAA and half the year in Cleveland, batted like 280s in Columbus, and then came to Cleveland. He batted. I think he finished off the year with almost the same batting average as fucking Andres Gimenez at like around 250.
Yeah.
So there's options.
Yeah. So I mean, and again, I trust the prospects, and I think the Guardians are right and also doing the same. Like I agree that they need to trust their system here.
Yeah.
And that is what they're doing. This is an absolute indication that is what they're doing. And I'm just really excited to see what these young guys have. And I think that was the theme last year where we saw a lot of the younger guys, blossom. And I think the front office clearly saw that and say, I think we need to see what else we got here. There's certain guys that have been here for a while that may just need a change in scenery. And Gimenez is probably still going to do fantastic with,
Oh
like with
yeah.
the Blue Jays. I'm not saying that. Like, he's probably going to end up batting above 260, but he's
Sometimes you
not
need
much
new
for
plays.
power, and he's not much for just what we need. And I
Yeah.
just think the Guardians are going to look to build more and more with these prospects. And we've always been good with having to build our prospects into really great players. I mean,
Mhm.
just to name a couple over the last few years, Jose, Lindor. I mean, even Gimenez was a part of the Lindor trade, I believe,
He
and
was.
they
He was part of the Lindor trade.
and they ended up blossoming him into what he is now. Stephen Kwan is an amazing player. All of the
Bieber and
pitchers,
Bybee.
yeah, all of the pitchers that we've had, the
Uh,
Klubers, the CC Sabathias, like you name it, the Cliff Lees. There have been so many legends that we have brewed out of this farm system that I am not concerned whatsoever, because when it comes to this, we are some of the better ones. Period.
Well,
Uh,
that's the thing. Guys like Corey Kluber, you traded for because Kluber started his career in I think in Texas. I can't remember where he started. He started his career somewhere. You brought him in, turned him into an ace. Tristan McKenzie was becoming an ace until his injury. Tanner Bybee's an ace. Bieber is a Cy Young winner.
yeah.
You turn these guys into aces, like you said. You turned out Gold Glovers like Jose and Lindor and Stephen Kwan. You and look at now you have Big Christmas John Kenzie Noel who looks to be like a stud. You have so many people. Bo Naylor, it finally started to get right towards the end of the season and in the playoffs. Bo Naylor was hitting the ball well. So there's so many people you have that, like you said, you turn into absolute monsters. And some of them weren't even from the farm system. Some of them you just traded and they were trash, but you blossomed them into stars. And that's what we do best, man. We blossom these people who are garbage into stars. The only exception that we didn't was Josh Bell. He was the only exception.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and he was a 1 year. Actually, I don't even think he made
He
the
was a
full
half a
year.
year.
Yeah, he was a half a year, and then he was gone. So to go back on Corey Kluber, he was selected by San Diego back
Yeah.
in 2007, and he spent a little bit time in the minors, and it wasn't until 2011 when we had finally gotten him. I don't know if we traded for him or if he just signed here,
I think
and
we
then they sort of boosted
traded.
him. I'm trying to look here. Where's Forster? Added a 40-man roster November 19th. Spent time with AAA Columbus in 2011, where he went 7-11 with a 5.56 ERA. So he started off kind of rough.
Yeah.
And this kid just continued to battle and continue to battle. And then he finally got into the rotation and he just became a really solid player. And he took off after 2013. And, guys like Corey Kluber just absolute legend. I mean, you can even bring up Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber was the same thing. We literally brewed him from the ground up. All of the pitchers that we currently have, pretty much besides Ben Lively, have all been us, really. So I have all of the faith and confidence in the world. I'm not necessarily pleased that the Dolphins don't want to spend money, but if you're going to spend money, you better spend it correctly. And this is part of the business. Like, you got to get it over it. So,
Yeah.
we will see what else they do. I know the winter meetings are just starting, really.
Mm-hmm.
So there's much more probably to come. So stay tuned for that. But I do want to get into some Browns talk, the more lower end of things, the sad stuff. Get it out of the way, and then we'll get into our picks after that. So obviously, we both predicted that the Browns were going to lose against the Steelers. They have not won in Pittsburgh in the regular season since 2003, which is really when I started becoming a Browns fan, unfortunately,
Me
because that's when
too.
I actually, like, I was more of a Ohio State fan first. I think I started to watch them in like 2001 or 2002, and then the Browns were after. Um, so yeah, have not won in a game there. Obviously, the Browns, it was weird. Jerry Jeudy started off really hot, Jameis literally threw an excellent drive there. It was a beautiful open ball to Jerry Jeudy. I'm like, all right, cool. Offense is continuing to flow. This is going to be fun. And it just kind of slowed down. And it was weird because starting off the game, the Browns were actually running the ball fairly well. Jerome Ford had a couple good runs. Chubb had his biggest run of the year so far, which was like a 19-yard run.
Yeah.
He's starting to slowly come around. And that's why I, even from last week, continue to be patient with Chubb, because I'm telling you, by next year, or I should say, next season, when he's fully healthy, ready to go with a full year of actually training, getting back to his old self, Nick Chubb is going to be just fine. And if you get another guy behind him that's going to be better than Ford, and you boost this O-line, this could be a much different team. But the Browns just couldn't get anything going. The Steelers were able to sort of they were able to control the line of scrimmage really on both sides of the ball. The Browns just couldn't really get a flow of things after that first drive, and it just didn't really get much prettier. The Steelers ran the ball really well. Russell played a pretty good game. Not an outstanding game, but a good game. Defense just continues to struggle. And that's been sort of the name of the game the last few weeks. I mean, what do you make of it? I mean, I know we sort of talked about with Winston and throwing more picks. I think we had 3 turnovers again this week. I think he fumbled and had 2 picks. I mean, is it going to get old with Winston? Because this is what we signed up for. And we even talked about this last week at the highs and lows with Winston. This is who he is. Is it going to get old? Like, can we deal with it for another season? Like, we're going to probably have to.
I mean, I know people are starting to come around and saying, instead of re-signing Jameis, how about we go and get Justin Fields from Pittsburgh? And
yeah,
to be honest, I don't mind either option. The true thing is like you said, can we deal with the interceptions for one more season? And I don't know if you really can, because how much is too much? Like, yeah, the football is exciting and whatnot, and the games are a little bit more watchable now. But do you want to deal with another season where he goes a full season, throws 27 touchdowns, but also like 25 picks?
Yeah.
It's a little sketchy to me, because those picks could be game-defining picks, like in Denver, where you had chances to win and you just threw a pick. I think there's a little bit better options. Plus, two, I know a lot of people like Tony Grossi and the dude from 92.3. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he's that nerdy dude.
There's a lot of those there.
Daryl Ryder.
Yeah.
They said that he might be too expensive to bring back.
Yeah, I mean he could get signed somewhere and just start somewhere else.
That's what
not want to deal with this. I mean I know he fucks with Cleveland, but at the end of the day, he is still going to be 30, 31 years old. He still has a lot of football left to play. I wouldn't be surprised if he does that. So yeah, that's not a bad take there.
And that's the thing too, is like, and then can you go out and get like a Justin Fields for cheap and sign him for a couple of years and wait to draft a quarterback in the next couple of years? There's so many questions surrounding that.
Yeah, and again, here is my remedy for that. Whether you bring back Jameis or you bring in a Fields or somebody within that sort of realm of quarterbacks, again, this is when you bolster your O-line and you get your run game back to where it was. Then you don't have to have a guy like Jameis throw the ball 50 times like he had to do it in Denver. And maybe he knocks down interceptions because of that. And there's a remedy to this.
And I think you have to get rid of Ken. Yeah, and you have to get rid of Ken Dorsey to do that, because Ken Dorsey is going to call nothing but 90% passing plays. Yeah. And I know we all saw the little Hard Knocks clip on Twitter of Kevin Stefanski where he's talking on the mic to Dorsey, saying we have to get the ball in Five's hands. But that was towards the end of the game, when the game was like a 1-score game, and You really had no
But
time
also
to.
Jameis had the hot hand. Like he was still throwing for over close to 500 yards. I get it. Like,
and I think Ken Dorsey was trying to run at that point. It's like, dude, now's the wrong time to run. Like you're picking the wrong times to do these things. You're picking the wrong time to run. You're picking the wrong time to throw. And it's like, well, it's almost a tied ball game with a couple minutes left in the game. You might as well give it to Jameis, let him ride the hot hand.
yeah.
So, and that's what Kevin Stefanski was doing. I think he was overriding Ken Dorsey and what he was trying to do. Like, listen, don't be a fucking idiot. Like, let's do this the right way. I gave you the play calling to see what you could do. Essentially, just see if you get fired or not.
Yeah.
But no, like you said, you could bolster this O line and get the run game going again. Kevin Stefanski gets the playbook back. We start running more play action. We start running the ball a lot more. Jameis goes from throwing 48 times a game to about 30 to 32 times a game, because in this game he threw 41 times. You knock that down a bit. It might limit those interceptions a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't throw 3 picks against Denver. Maybe he throws 1 and you might win that game.
Right. And what's funny is he's probably going to play better against Kansas City. They're not necessarily the greatest defense. They do have a really good pass rush.
They have a great pass rush.
Kansas City has a great pass rush, but they're not necessarily the best on the back end. But again, you have an offense that is not putting up a ton of numbers, but you're also having them go up against a defense who is now down their third cornerback in Newsome, who just went down on the IR this week with a hamstring. You have the possibility of not having it Njoku and possibly Bitonio now. He missed practice today, which our offensive line has already been struggling this year as is, hanging on by a fucking thread. And now we got to deal with our best, most consistent lineman having back issues, which is why I say this could very well be his last year. He has got to be battered and bruised by this time.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got to be rough for him. And I feel so bad for him. But, I mean, the Browns are going to play the Chiefs. I mean, I know it's at home, but there's hardly – the only way that we beat them is because Taylor Swift put a hex on the Chiefs and we somehow beat them. But it's just not realistic. Although the Chiefs have had a lot of one-possession games, and I saw a stat that if they flipped them, they would be like 2-11 or something. So
yeah, dude, they've
had close games this year, very close games.
Look at the Chargers game.
Pat Mahomes has not played well.
That Chargers game, they only won by 2, and that was a game-winning field goal.
Yeah,
they didn't win, and I mean, to be fair, I think the refs have bailed them out a lot of those times because, again, look at the Chargers game. I think the Chargers were about to get a sack, just on the play before the field goal, and they missed 2 holding calls, and I think a false start. So it's like, again, there you go. There's 2 holding calls that you miss, a false start. Chiefs get the ball in field goal range, and they kick the game-winning field goal.
Yeah.
So I think nobody is sold on the Chiefs anymore because at this point, everyone knows they just been getting bailed out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, Pat Mahomes could have really been 2-11 this year, and they could have been one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
And like, imagine the Browns having a better year than the Kansas City Chiefs by a win. That first of all, that's hilarious. Second of all, people are talking about how the Browns went from the playoffs to 3-11. It's like, well, I mean, look at what our stupid ass front office did. I mean, there's your answer.
Yeah.
Hey, it's called Deshaun Watson. Maybe if he didn't start those games, we'd be in a lot better of a position. Exactly. But again, Kansas City's is not looking that great, and they look insanely beatable to anybody. Yeah. And I think they've fallen off hard. And to be fair, they could be first round exits in these playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Like they don't if they see the Chargers again or something, they're done. Or if they see Buffalo's going to hammer the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're ready for that. So Kansas City is very susceptible to getting their asses kicked.
Oh yeah,
I wonder who
very
they.
much so.
I wonder if they play Buffalo before. Oh, 3-10, not 3-11. Sorry, I'm dumb as shit.
It's fine. So my
Did they play? Yeah, they lost to Buffalo already a couple weeks ago.
yep.
30-21, yeah. So, but like you said, a lot of us they barely beat the Raiders. They scraped out 2 wins against the Chargers, 17-10 and 19-17. Scraped out a win against the Bengals, the Ravens in week 1. Barely got by Tampa Bay, barely got by Denver, barely beat the Panthers 30-27. Holy shit. And then they won the last 2 games 19-17, both I think on game-winning field goals.
Yeah.
And then we all remember the Atlanta game where it was 22-17. They got bailed out at the end because it should have been a PI call in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they very much would have been 2-11 instead of 12-1. There's no way they should be 12-1.
No, not at all. So, I mean, is it somewhat possible? Yes. Is it likely? No.
Yeah.
At this point, I think my goal is for the Browns to just be able to survive the rest of the season without any major injuries to any major players.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would say after the Bengals game, if things still don't look great, I would start shutting down a couple of guys and just saying, guys, I know you guys want to play, but we have to think about 2025 and beyond for this ball club. Because obviously 3-10 right now, there's nothing really to play for beyond pride. And I'm at least happy that the guys have not given up. Like, you haven't seen the guys truly like give up.
No,
You
we had
have
a
not.
lot of close games in the last few weeks. We had a lot of
like
close games.
this team had every chance to lay down after the Saints game and the way they played.
And they
And
did.
they've at least fought their ass off. They almost beat a Denver team that they should not have been close to. Obviously they won that Steelers game in the snow, which was a fun game to watch anyway. Didn't expect to win this game in Pittsburgh, but still fought it out and still battled out. I mean, they held Watt about the same as they did in the first game. Didn't do really anything.
Watt's only tackle and only play was the first play of the game, and that was the Nick Chubb loss of 3 yards.
Yeah,
and that's because he went unblocked on that play.
Yeah, a lot of Watt's stats are, again, he is a cleanup artist. He gets kind of thrown sacks with the way he has the pass rush from everybody else on that D line. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
he gets so lucky. But before we get into the picks, I do want to go into this article that we talked about earlier.
Absolutely.
So Jeremy Fowler from ESPN just put out an article about 2 hours ago. And a lot of it had to do with talking to Jimmy Haslam. And some of these quotes are pretty funny and also, I would say, pretty accurate. And I think this is the way that I think a lot of fans have looked at this. And after reading through it, I'm actually somewhat relieved and surprised that Haslam is thinking this way. Because I think old Haslam would be very gung-ho to be wanting to fire the coach and the GM. And he's backing both of them in this article, very much so. He says that Stefanski and Barry are the guys. They are the right pieces. Although I think Stefanski more so is a better fit than Barry is. I think maybe if you get rid of Di Podesta and you put somebody else in his place to really help Barry and really improve the scouting staff, that could help. But I know Barry is still a smart guy, so I'm not going to totally give up on Barry, but I'm not pleased with where he is right now. But Haslam has backed both of them. But some of these quotes, and I am going to read this first part of this article pretty much word for word for you guys, so just so you guys can sort of get a taste of it. But please go check it out on ESPN. It's Jeremy Fowler. But he says that Jimmy Haslam is quote unquote perplexed by his team's 3-10 record. but they will evaluate its performance in totality after the season, including the outlook at quarterback. He has expressed support, obviously, for the coach and Barry, but he says, and this is a Haslam quote: "We went from 11-6 and having to make the playoffs to 3-10, so it is a little perplexing that's happened." And then when asked if he has the right players in place, after saying obviously Barry and and Stefanski are, they basically said, and I think this is where it gets. Where is this? We are all disappointed, he said. We've got a lot of work to do. We'll get back and go to work. I've learned not to get too emotional during the season. We will sit down after the season and go through everything. And this is after he had said something about, obviously, Deshaun is owed $92 million in guaranteed money over the next 2 seasons, and he obviously has struggled. And with Jameis being as well as he is, he is saying we need to get through the season and they will look at everything. But with the way this article looks, and guys, you guys can go, obviously read this. It sounds like Haslam is 100% putting blame on Watson without actually saying so. Which I think is where a lot of the fans are at. A lot of the fans have said this is on Watson. Had it not been for Watson this season, would not have snowballed the way it has. Now, the defense has not played that well this year. The offensive line has had its woes and its injuries. But when you have a quarterback that has played as bad as Watson did before he got hurt, it makes sense. And there's a lot of money tied up into this motherfucker. And Haslam does not want to just pay this guy unless they know for certain that he is going to be the guy moving forward. After you read the article, what did you think of it? Just in totality, because it wasn't a big article, but him talking a few weeks before the season ends usually would be a much worse thing than this article actually was. Because again, he's backing both Stefanski and Barry, which I think is a good move.
Yeah, and I think this is him basically saying, like, look, guys, I kind of fucked up. I kind of fucked up with this whole Deshaun Watson situation. That's my bad. And we're going to look past this. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to get him out of here. He's not going to play at all in 2025 nor 2026. We're going to look elsewhere for quarterback play. And we screwed up. Yeah. We're perplexed that we're 3-10 when we went 11-6 last year. And we're starting to realize why. If we weren't so gung-ho and selfish, I mean, we forced Kevin Stefanski to say that Deshaun Watson is going to be the starter for the rest of the year. Deshaun Watson is going to start the rest of the year. Deshaun Watson is our starter. He gives us the best chance to win. We saw those interviews after the Giants game, after the Bengals game and whatnot. I know he got hurt during the Bengals game, but we saw those interviews beforehand, those games before. Kevin Stefanski looked dead. He looked soulless. He didn't even believe what he was saying himself.
Yeah.
Because we all know deep down, the real ball knowers like you, me, and others that looked at the situation, we knew he wanted to bench his ass after the Giants game. And that was game 2 of the season. He wanted his ass benched.
Yeah.
And they basically forced his hand. And I'm almost starting to believe that with all this being said, that Andrew Berry was hardly a part of the deal as well.
Right.
It makes it almost seem like it was Jimmy Haslam that wanted this really badly. And that he was told by Paul DePodesta that, hey, look, we should get Deshaun Watson. And DePodesta kind of twisted the Haslam's arm and said, listen, get him. Look at his stats from 2020. Get him.
Yeah.
Get him. I'm going to burn your arm. We'll give you like an Indian burn on your arm. Get him.
And that's what we were talking about this week. A lot of these projects that either Barry or Paul DePodesta, whoever has been the one signing off on those, I mean, a lot of these project guys have not gone well. Kadarius Toney is the latest fucking one.
Yeah,
I mean, he had a horrible game, and he just got his ass whooped off this team. You have had plenty. I forget what the D tackle's name was. The guy that flashed his wiener at a class of kindergartners drunk. McDowell.
Yeah,
McDowell.
McDowell.
You obviously have Mike Hall, who obviously now has the things that he has.
And he's back now.
He is back now, so they're obviously going to get a nice little evaluation of him. But
Mm-hmm.
dude, the only one that's really worked out for you was Kareem Hunt, and that wasn't a Andrew Berry move at all. That was during the Dorsey days. So there's just a lot of these little fuckeries that we keep doing, and Watson was the worst one. Like, you put all of your chips in that basket, and you got it wrong, and you have to find a way to walk away. And Haslam's gonna hate it because he's gonna have to bring out his wallet. But that's the good thing about Haslam, and I will give him this credit. He has not been afraid to spend money when he has needed to. And it's the same thing with guys like Dan Gilbert as well. Obviously, the Dolans don't enjoy spending money unless it's on themselves. But Haslam is not afraid to do that, and he's probably going to have to do that. And he may want to call up John Elway and say, "Hey, how did you guys do it with the Russ, situation? Because they clearly got that wrong." And it's just, this is what's going to have to happen at some point. It's just a matter of when and how it goes down. Yeah. But it even seems like Watson doesn't want to be a part of this team. No. So it is what it is. But I'm more so happy again that Haslam has not been speaking out against Stefanski and Barry. I think it shows his maturity in the way. And again, he even said it, later on in this this article. I've learned not to get too emotional during the season, and I think in the past he would, especially when he first bought this team. How many co-coaches and GMs do we have to go through just to get to Hugh Jackson, who was a shit show anyway? But they still kept him longer than they should have. And then they obviously dealt with Freddie. They dealt with whoever else was before that, Greg Williams as well, I guess. But they've dealt with a lot of guys over the years, plenty of GMs and plenty of players that we have absolutely flopped on. It's just the name of the business. And I just think Haslam has grown. And we do have some winnable games. Like, even the Miami game is a winnable game because you're playing Miami in some cold-ass weather after Christmas. It's a chance to win. But Miami is going to be going after that win because they're fighting for a playoff spot right now. So it'll be interesting how the Browns try to sort of finish out this season. And again, my only concern is getting through this season healthy with your key guys. Yeah. If you can avoid the guys like Miles, Ward, and all of those major guys, Chubb, if you can avoid those guys getting seriously hurt or anything, I think that has to be on the top of your priority list at 3 and 10. Because you need to be scouting college at this point, like you do. Like, you need to be having your scouts doing extra homework right now because this season's going to be over. I think the last game against Baltimore is like January 5th or something, because I know Miami game is 29th.
I could double check to be sure.
Man.
Where is it at? NFL Brownies. That is the 5th.
Yeah, 5th. Okay. Yeah, so I was right.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that, season's over. It's not like you're fighting for playoffs. So nope. I'm at least happy that Haslam is starting to mature a little bit in that way.
Yeah, and I think he was right to admit he was wrong with this whole Deshaun Watson thing. And I think
he hasn't really fully admitted it, but he's saying we'll evaluate everything. Like, it was a nice professional way of saying
I fucked up.
Going to be changes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, it was a professional way of saying, like, look, guys, my bad. Yeah. And I think this is the first sign of growth for this team. that they might make the right changes. Because to be honest, I don't think Andrew Berry's dumb. I don't think he's dumb at all.
No.
He's great at reworking contracts. I think he could have a good football mind if he's allowed to do the decisions that he's allowed to do.
Right.
Because I think a lot of the choices he's been making is more Paul DePodesta making the choices and him just having to follow suit with it. And I think once you get DePodesta out of here, I think that's when the fun really starts. Yeah. And I think that's when Browns fans will start breathing a sigh of relief and that we can actually start getting things right. Because to be honest, there's no way John Dorsey listened to DePodesta at all. John Dorsey probably looked at him and said, all right, computer nerd, get the hell out of here. You know how I know this guy's going to be a better player than this guy? It's because I used my fucking eyes and I watched. I didn't get on my happy little computer and type in numbers and come up with future outcomes. And because no, I actually watched the player and utilized my eyes.
We certainly need more football guys than analytic guys, which we've been saying that for a while now. So that's not a new topic.
And that could be the changes he makes.
Yeah.
And that could be the changes he makes is getting rid of the nerds and bringing back in football guys.
Right.
And we can get out of here and make some proper decisions.
Yeah. Because we certainly need it. And we have some good core guys, but they are getting to the point where they're going to be out of their prime in the next few years. So you have a small window, and we've been saying you've had a small window since 2018. So
you got like
realistically, maybe if that, I'm saying like 3 to 4 max. Especially with the Watson stuff, it's going to put us back a few years. I already know it, but the Browns, again, as we've been saying, are not far off. So you have to make the right moves, but can we trust them to make the right moves is really the big question. Yeah. And that's going to be what this off season is going to be about. And, you and I were even having this talk earlier where it's like, I almost am not looking forward to it because I don't know what to expect. And I don't really have high hopes because of what's been going on in the past. So we will see what the staff can do. We will see what changes are made to this staff and then how they can reevaluate because they have a lot of that to do. I don't have too much more to say on the Browns. I do want to get to this week's picks. I know you said I went 8-5 and Andrew went 9-4.
Yeah,
I believe. So Andrew beat me. He got me on a few games. I think I got him on the Chiefs and Chargers game. I think that was about the only one I really hit on that was different. So, another down week for me. I'm starting to slow down.
You're now up 4 games on me.
Yeah.
So you started off a couple of weeks ago up like 8, and I've caught up, brought it down to 4. You're up 124.69. I'm 120.73.
Yeah. Well, listen, you know what? I did this on purpose. How's that? I wanted to make it fun.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I suck.
I do too. I'm just getting fucking lucky. All right, let's get it. Let's start off with the Thursday night game tomorrow. LA Rams versus San Francisco 49ers.
This is going to be a good game. So San Fran played really well last week, which I did not expect. But the Rams have also been playing really, really well. They just beat
Buffalo
Bills. Yeah. And I think they continue to ride that high. I'm going to take the Rams here. I know San Fran's at home, and that is probably going to help them. But the Rams have been playing so good. But we will see what version of San Fran comes out because they played really, really well last week. Brock Purdy is still playing a really good line of games. It's just he doesn't have as much of the help as he used to, and they continue to lose running backs. So it's going to be interesting. So that's why I am going to take the Rams here.
I went with the 49ers just for the fact of, again,
they're at home.
The defense is really good. The defense has been keeping them in all these games. Brock Purdy's been playing well. And minus the running back situation, that offensive line is really good. So I think any running back in that system could thrive.
True.
And Juwan Jennings is playing, again, like he did in the beginning of the year. Yeah, really playing really, really well. Again, Ricky Pearsall playing really well. Debo doing okay.
Yeah.
But they've been making it work. And they've been finding ways to win to make it work. Short road trip too for LA, just having to go up to San Francisco. So not bad when you can stay in your own state. And I just think San Francisco's going to take it.
Hell
So
yeah.
look at that.
Already starting off. Yep, I love it.
All right, let's get to the Dallas Cowboys and the Carolina Panthers.
So fun fact: the Panthers are actually favored in this game,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna take them on the favorite here. I think
Okay.
Carolina is gonna do it. I've been loving how Bryce Young is playing. He's playing with confidence, which
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to seeing. They are going to be a very interesting team within the next season or two because they're still going to have a decent pick this year. Carolina is going to be in a really good spot. Dallas, on the other hand, is going to be in cap hell. They're going to be a fun team. But I think the Cowboys just lost to the Bengals on, was that Monday night?
Yep.
It was a close game. But again, the Cowboys defense is just not that good. And with the way the way that Bryce has been playing, I like Carolina here.
Yeah, I did too. Again, they're at home. I like you said, I like the fact that not Brock Purdy. I like the fact that Bryce Young's playing super well.
You did the same thing I did.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I know. I'm fucking making mistakes here. But no, I like the way Bryce Young has been playing. Chuba Hubbard's been a really good running back for them too this year. And I know they lost Jonathan Bress because he retore his ACL again.
Yeah.
The same ACL is retorn. So he's out for next season too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing they locked up Chuba Hubbard for the next 4 years and gave him some money because they're going to need it.
He's a fucking stud, man. Dude, Hubbard has been a stud for them.
Hubbard has been a stud. They're hoping Jonathan Brooks would have been a great replacement for Chuba Hubbard. But again, re-tearing his ACL, he's out forever now. Yeah. But that offense is looking really good for some reason. And I think Bryce Young has finally found what he's been looking for in the NFL finally. So, yep, Carolina for me. And I think we can get this game out of the way too. Kansas City and Cleveland.
I mean, I think the game will be closer than it has in the past against them because we've always gotten our ass kicked by Kansas City. Travis Kelce always shows up and scores like 2. I will not be surprised if he does that again.
Yeah.
But I do think it'll be a little close, but it's going to be Kansas City. We are not going to beat them unless we have another like snow game sort of aura to the team. It's the only way I see it happening.
Yeah, I went with Kansas City unless Myles Garrett ends up sacking the referee with Patrick Mahomes and knocking out one of the referees, like accidentally injuring them. So I think that's the only way we get a win. That's the only way we get a win in this game.
Right.
So not only do you have to sack Patrick Mahomes, you have to sack the main referee. But yeah, Kansas City's going to come into our yard and take it unless we have 80-mile-an-hour winds. So pray to God that the wind god is in Cleveland and he's blowing that ball around because they're going to have to use that run game more often than not. And Pacheco is slowly getting back to form. So Miami and Houston, what do you got?
Miami has been playing some really good ball. Houston has been struggling a little bit. I know they come off a bye that could help them, but I think I'm going to go Miami. Tua's playing some really good ball right now, and I'm going to continue to give him the high here. So yeah, I'm going to go Miami.
I'm going to go with Houston just for the fact that Miami's defense is kind of bad this year. I think they're like 25th in the NFL in defense. They just don't look that great. They almost had a scare against the Jets. I was pretty confident in them beating the Jets, and it was a lot closer than I anticipated. But again, an OT win. They finally figured out that who's the tight end? I can't remember his name now. It's killing me.
For who?
Miami.
Johnny Smith.
Johnny Smith, yeah. They finally realized Johnny Smith was a all-pro tight end like a couple years ago with Tennessee, and they finally figured out they can use him, and he's really good.
Shit, he was good last year for the Falcons as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, they didn't use their tight ends a whole lot, but like when they used Johnny Smith, whatever, Johnny Smith is really good. Like,
Yeah.
he's always been good. Um, but they didn't get him into the game until OT, and that's when they actually drove the ball downfield really well, and they won because they threw two
Mhm.
screens to him, and he got like 20 yards on both fucking passes.
Mhm.
So, but I went with Houston because again they're coming off a bye. I think that's going to help CJ Stroud. Nico Collins is healthy again, and Joe Mixon has been a stud for them all year.
Oh yeah.
So, and again, they're at home. I think they could squeak out a W here. Jets and Jags, the
this
mid bowl.
Yeah, this is the most mid game ever. Um they so I'm gonna pick the Jets. The Jets were playing better last week. Um I have no faith in Mac Jones
Yeah,
for Jacksonville. Like I know they're at home, but the Jets suck. They don't suck that badly. I'm saying Jets.
yeah, the Jets suck. I went with them too. Just like you said, Mac Jones just is like the epitome of suck. Like he is the suckiest of suck,
I
and I do not trust this kid at all with anything.
don't
I don't
think
even.
Mac Jones trusts himself with anything.
This dude probably locks his own keys in his car like 30 times a day. I don't think he trusts himself at all.
Yeah, he's rough.
Um, Probably can't even make mac and cheese on the stovetop.
Just burns it.
Probably exactly. Probably just burns the water in the milk. Okay. So I'm gonna go with the Jets because Mac Jones can't even tie his own shoes. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a wide receiver do it for him. So yeah, let's go with the Jets. Washington and New Orleans.
Washington, Derek Carr just went out.
Yep,
He's done. Um, it's Washington.
it's Washington with ease. I mean, I don't think we
I'm
need to go
just
into
saying.
very much detail. Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz are a fucking great combo.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, not much to go off of there because that's just another. That should be another easy game to call. Let's go to Baltimore and the Giants.
Ravens.
Yeah,
I mean, the Giants are getting ready to go back to Tommy DeVito because Drew Lock's hurt. So it might help New York just a tad, but New York has been pitiful. It's sad that the Browns lost to this fucking team because the two worst teams in the entire league, we've lost to both of them, which was New York and Oakland. So
yeah,
sucks to suck for us. Baltimore's going to win this game easily.
yeah. Baltimore is going to win this game easy, like you said. Somehow, some way, we lost to both New York and Vegas. Like it's so dumb.
So bad.
It's so bad. Like, and of course, you had to start Deshaun Watson in those games, and those games you could have easily won. So, yeah, Baltimore should be able to just smoke through this team. Derrick Henry should have at least 200 yards rushing. Um, so yeah, I will with Baltimore. Bengals in Tennessee.
This this game is gonna be like a for sure like 50-50 game.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pick the Bengals because I think they have the better offense. Both defenses aren't that great, but the Bengals did play better on defense against Dallas than I've seen them play in a while. So maybe they take that into this game against Tennessee. I know the Titans are at home, which is why I say this. I can see the Titans winning this game just because the Bengals defense is so putrid at
yeah,
times. But dude, Burrow and Jamar are just on a like almost a generational tear this year. I think Jamar has like 15 plus touchdowns right now
yeah,
as a receiver. It's insane how crazy he's going. Um, I don't see the Titans being able to really stop that. So it's just gonna come down to who sucks more that game. So I'm gonna say Bengals win this game.
yeah. I will with the Bengals too, like you said. As long as this offense just does what it's supposed to do, should be Bengals all the way. Defense shouldn't matter in this game. The offense could probably hang 30 plus on Tennessee.
Yeah.
So the defense wouldn't matter. All right, New England and Arizona.
Another mid game, but I am gonna pick Arizona here because they're at home. That is the
Yeah.
only reason why I'm gonna take them here. I know I know the Pats are probably capable of beating the Cards. I know Murray has not been playing fantastic, but I saw a crazy stat today. Marvin Harrison has not dropped a single ball since week 1.
Oh,
That
wow.
so anytime they do use him, he's incredible.
Yeah.
So you just gotta feed the rock to Mans and continue to give it to James Conner and not let Kyler make dumb choices, and they can win more games. That's all there is to it.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing is not letting Kyler just be Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Like, just don't let him be Kyler Murray. Throw the ball to Marvin Harrison, give the ball to James Conner, you're going to win. I have Arizona this game because we're at home, but that's really the only specific thing. New England is awful, but we haven't seen a whole lot of Drake May in the last couple of weeks either. So I'm going with Arizona. Indianapolis and Denver.
Denver, they're at home.
Yep.
I know the Colts are playing a little better, but Denver's a better team here. They're at home. Makes all the sense.
Yeah, I went with Denver too, just because they're at home. Bo Nix is playing out of his mind recently, playing really well. And I mean, Sutton's playing really well too.
Oh yeah.
He's been killing it too. Him and Bo Nix have found a great connection, and they're just doing great things with that connection.
And they just came off a bye.
And they just came off a bye. Yeah. So they should be A-okay. Buffalo and Detroit. I think this is the hardest game.
This is a hard one.
Detroit at home.
Yeah, Detroit's at home, but I know they're a little beat up on defense.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that matters. I mean, Detroit has just been so fucking good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna continue to ride them because I'm telling you, those two teams are kind of my teams to watch in the playoffs for me at least. So I like either team here. I would not be surprised if Josh Allen pulls it off. I don't know if you guys know what Josh Allen did this past week. Although they lost to the Rams by 2 somehow because their defense decided they just didn't want to play. This dude had 6 total touchdowns, 3 passing, 3 rushing. He had 89 yards rushing with 3 touchdowns. Josh Allen is MVP this year, 100%. There's no
100%.
debate. I know Lamar has had another fantastic year. It's Josh Allen's year. This is Josh Allen's time to win MVP. It's going to be it. But with that said, Detroit, this team is just electric. They're so fucking good. I can't not take them, especially at home.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agreed with you. I took Detroit at home because it reminds me of the Tom Brady days in New England. You just don't bet against Tom Brady. Well, in this year, you don't bet against Detroit.
No.
Because Detroit is truly, I know Kansas City's 12-1, but Detroit's the true 12-1 team.
Yeah.
They're the actual good football team. They're my Super Bowl favorites.
Mm-hmm.
They're my
100%.
favorites. And honestly, if they win the Super Bowl, I would be the happiest guy. As a Browns fan, I'd be the happiest guy in the world. Just because they're so similar to us. And they went through similar things as us. Obviously, the defeated seasons of going 0-16.
Yep.
And all the years of suck. But they figured it out. And they're about to be Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, they very well could, yes.
And that's a massive turnaround. And I think that just gives me a little bit of hope as a Browns fan. Because it's like
one day we'll get it right.
well, that's the thing. Is like if we just get it right one day, this could be us.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have to feel the pain anymore, and nobody would laugh at us anymore. Nobody's laughing at Detroit at all anymore. Everyone's like, no. Everyone forgot about that 0-16 season. They're like, oh my god, Detroit's actually destroying everybody in their path.
Everybody sees Detroit and says, "Oh, I want to build a team like that. Like I want to build a team through the draft, mostly, and find their QB however they see fit." Yeah. But they have weapons out the ass on offense and on defense, man.
They turned Goff into a stud.
And it's not like Goff wasn't a bad quarterback. He went to a Super Bowl with the Rams. Like he was on a really good offense. He just got unlucky in that game, and he just wasn't the same. But they gave him confidence, and they also said, "Hey, we're not going to make you have to pass the ball a whole lot.
Yeah.
Goff played his best ball with the Rams when Todd Gurley was going off. And
Yeah.
then when Todd Gurley vanished, so did he. They understood we are going to be a play action first team. We are going to run the ball well, and we're going to establish the line of scrimmage. They have one of the best old lines in the entire league too.
And they drafted every single one of them.
They drafted every single one over the years.
Sewell is the best draft pick I think in a while.
Taylor fucking Decker has been there for like a decade.
Taylor Decker's been there for a decade. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's they've played it the right way. And
I still laugh at the Bengals for not taking Penei Sewell.
Oh my god, yeah. What a bunch of idiots.
I was like, oh yeah, Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell. Yeah, Jamar Chase is great and all. But Joe
you still have a losing record, even though you have the wide receiver with the most touchdowns this year. Hasn't done any much.
And the thing is, too, he's still the most sacked quarterback. He's still getting injured. Penei Sewell would have helped a ton with that.
Yes.
But for me, this is my Super Bowl matchup. I think this is a Super Bowl preview.
Yeah,
is the Bills
very well could be.
And it's the two former teams that suck. It's the Bills and the Detroit Lions. Who thought this would be a Super Bowl in this decade? Or in this in this timeline?
Yeah.
Because the Bills, the Browns, and Detroit were all known as losers.
Yeah.
And here we are now. The Super Bowl is probably going to be the Bills versus Detroit. And it's like, what the fuck just happened? Yeah. Like, what did the NFL become? But I love it. These are the two teams that I would probably be a fan of if I wasn't a Browns fan. And I'm loving it. I am loving it. This is my Super Bowl preview. I went with Detroit to win this game. So Tampa Bay and the Chargers.
I am going to pick the Chargers here strictly because they are home. This is going to be another really good game. Like these two games are going to be fire. These 4:00 games
are going to be
some good slates, man. Tampa, obviously, they're playing better. It depends on the health of Bucky Irving. Let's see where he's at. That will help. But the Chargers, man, their defense is outstanding. Herbert is, despite not having a legit wide receiver one, he is still playing out of his mind. They don't have Dobbins. Like, they're still finding ways to win.
I think he found his number one receiver in Ladd McConkey because McConkey is playing insanely well in his rookie year. And he should be back in his game. So that would be that'd be really helpful for him in this game. Like you said, it really depends on Bucky Irving. I went with the Chargers because of their defense.
Yeah.
And because of how well Justin Herbert has been playing, especially with Ladd McConkey and Will Dissly, because Will Dissly has stepped up massively too, from a blocking tight end to now a great receiving tight end.
Yeah.
I think they just have everything right. I think Harbaugh has everything going well in this team.
Yeah. I mean, I hate Harbaugh, but he's a damn good coach, and
he's
you can't argue that.
To be honest, there's times where I wish he was the Browns coach for some reason, but I mean, because where would we be with him? Oh my goodness! But
Super Bowl, that's for sure.
Yeah, no fucking kidding. Either one of them too. But yeah, I went with the Chargers. Him and Herbert and Ladd McConkey are really good. I think they're the new Keenan Allen and Philip Rivers. So I went with good old LA Chargers. Next up, the Pennsylvania matchup, Pittsburgh versus Philly.
I'm going Philly because they're at home. The only thing that's going to suck for them is their quarterback and wide receiver one are beefing right now, which is hilarious.
When are they beefing?
The Eagles are a fucking reality show. Like dude, between the head coach, the quarterback, and wide receiver. The fans don't like Hurts. It's hilarious, dude. Philly is funny.
I told Philly fans, if you guys don't want Hurts, man, we'll take him in Cleveland.
Yeah, he would do exceptional here in Cleveland. I know that for a fact. But here's the thing, though. I will not be surprised if the Steelers end up winning this game, though, just because of that shit. But the Eagles still have a fantastic defense, and I just don't love the Steelers' offense. They might not have George again, and if that's the case, that's going to really hurt them. It didn't hurt them against us, but it's against us. The Eagles are a much different, game here. So I'm saying Eagles.
I went with the Eagles too because they're at home. And to be fair, and I know people are going to say this is me being a Browns fan. I just think the Steelers are fraudulent. I don't think they're that great as the record shows. I think they've pulled out a couple of lucky wins.
Yeah.
I think they pulled out a couple of fortunate situations, whether it was like a last second fumble that got them the ball and that got them a lead and a touchdown or a field goal. I like if it wasn't for those, they would be right with us.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that their record screams that of what they truly are. Like you said, their offense is a pitiful offense. And I think they're just being saved by their defense.
Yep.
And TJ Watt hasn't even shown up in the last couple of weeks. He's been non-existent for the last like 4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah, yes.
And I don't know what's going on with him, but it might lead to Myles Garrett winning Defensive Player of the Year again. So, and he's going to be pissed off about that.
Oh, yeah.
But I got Philly because even though the beef between Hurts and Brown is hilarious, I just think that that's not going to stop them from winning games. Yeah. They get beef outside this, off the field, but on the stage in the stadium in the game, they're connecting well. And I wish Hard Knocks was just all about Philly because I think that'd be a great reality show to watch. It's just them two beefing. So, or was it HGTV that has all the reality shows or E Network and let them do a fucking show on the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown? That'd be a great show. I'd watch that.
Yeah.
All right, Green Bay and Seattle, the Sunday night game.
Green Bay, they've been on a pretty solid tear, man. Honestly, Green Bay is another team that I can really see being a dark horse in the NFC.
Absolutely.
They will definitely be having to make a nice push for at least the NFC Championship game. They could even squeak in as a Super Bowl contender. Like they're playing solid ball. The run game is really what has been their bread and butter. And
Josh Jacobs is a stud.
I mean, he is. I mean, and we all knew that, but now putting him in an offense like that, he just seems more comfortable. And plus that D defense is so good. Seattle's good, but Green Bay is much, much better. Even on the road, I'm saying Green Bay here.
Yeah, I like Seattle. I think they're your typical they're good offensively and defensively, but they're not like good. I went with Green Bay just for the fact that, like you said, Green Bay is a sneaky Super Bowl contender in the NFC. Jordan Love has been playing really well, and Josh Jacobs has been really good. So I went with Green Bay. And then our first Monday night game is Chicago and Minnesota.
Minnesota, they're at home.
Yeah.
Like Chicago is playing just putrid ball. They're done. The Vikings are 10-2 or something like that. They're balling.
Yeah, Minnesota is definitely a good another good NFC team to watch out for. If they continue to play really well. But yeah, I went with Minnesota because they're at home, and Chicago's just been playing pitiful football. And then the last Monday night game, Atlanta and Vegas, the boring one.
Yeah, this is going to be a boring game, but Atlanta's going to do it simply because A, Oakland is bad, but B, they're down both of their quarterbacks. They are now at Desmond Ridder as their starting quarterback. I don't have a lot of faith in that. I know Kirk has looked like shit the last few weeks. He played better against the Vikings, but he's still throwing picks like every game.
Yeah.
But they still have a guy named Bijan, and they still have nice solid pieces. It's just weird that Atlanta has been so mid this year. Kurt has clearly not been 100%, and I don't know if he'll ever get back to that, but for this game at least, Atlanta will do it.
Yeah, I saw a stat that the Achilles injury is 2-0 against quarterbacks over 30 years old or over 35 years old, and that's Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. The Achilles have really took a toll on both of those quarterbacks. Like you said, Vegas is down to their third string quarterback. They're down to Desmond Ridder. Atlanta, Kirk has not been playing well, but Bijan's the only reason why they're doing so well, and their defense is pretty solid. So I went with Atlanta too. All right, and that will do it for the pick'ems.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, a couple different ones again, but again, it's one of those realities. Actually, we only have one difference, and that's San Francisco and the Rams.
Yep. So it'll be a nice start tomorrow. I think I am actually going to post this episode tomorrow before the game, just so you guys can see our picks and sort of change it up a little bit, because we usually will post on Fridays, but I'm going to switch it up this week and see how it does. So, Angie, you got anything else before we get off here? I know obviously Browns are probably going to stink at the place, but fun news about the Cavs: Max Strus is going to return to play on Friday, which is a big boost for us right now. We really need it. A guy like him. He's probably not going to play a whole lot, but it's still nice to see him getting back. So that will be fun. They play against the Wizards on Friday, so they will get back to playing a shitty team and sort of get back into the flow. So that'll be fun. And again, we still got a few more weeks until OSU versus Tennessee in the first playoff game for us. We have the toughest, before we get off, we have the toughest road through the playoffs. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like if we beat Tennessee, we would have to play Oregon, and then whoever would get to the Natty, we would then play them. It's a rough road. Like they clearly gave Ohio State the hardest road period here. So
I think they wanted us to have the rematch with Oregon too.
They definitely did, but this is a chance for Ryan Day to sort of save face here, because obviously having the stinker that he did against that team up north, if he can beat Tennessee fairly convincingly and then come back to Oregon and obviously play at Oregon, but at least play them.
Well, that game's gonna be on a neutral field. Only the first round of the playoffs is home or away, and then
but you got to think it'll be like near like LA or some shit, so it'll be home enough for Oregon.
I think they have where they're playing at already.
I bet you it's either Rose Bowl or like Sugar Bowl. It's gonna be one of those games.
Let's see. I wonder if I can. It's at the Rose Bowl, so yeah.
It's Rose Bowl, yeah. So that's almost the home game for Oregon. So that kind of sucks for us, but still neutral, and it'll be fun. I think that rematch will be better than anything else. But yeah, still a few more weeks for that. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, Andrew, you got anything else before we get off?
Yeah, I will be at the Cavs game on Friday, so I will hopefully get to see Max Strus ball out for a little bit, and then praying to God that the Guardians can get Roki Sasaki.
Yes.
Or Sasaki.
Yeah, that would be lit.
Yeah, because if we get Roki Sasaki, because he said he wants to come to a small market team, he wouldn't be opposed to it.
Nope.
Because he doesn't really like media, he doesn't like attention a whole lot, so that might stray him away from the Dodgers and the Yankees and New York. Sure. So come to Cleveland, man. We got an open spot for you. That would be a hell of a rotation to have.
That'd be so sick. Yeah, let's root for that, please.
Yeah, so let's pray for Max Strus to do well, and let's pray for Roki Sasaki to come to Cleveland.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week.